My fellow Barsoomians, I come to you today with a review of the Swords of Mars, number 8 in the continuing series of Martian novels by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This one actually returns to our kind of the main big guy of this series, John Carter himself, who we haven't seen since I think book 3 of the series. This is him, first person, narrating his story after a little intro thing where he visits, I believe it's Edgar Rice Burroughs in Arizona, and says, "Oh, I need to tell you a story," and of his thing. So he's back. This is a story back on Mars, where he's warlord of Mars, and he's decided he's going to fight against the Assassins Guild, which has kind of runs riot and holds great fear and sway over the population. And he's decided to battle them, and he ends up going to the newly conquered city of Zodonga, which is the assassins' base, to find the guild. And who is the leader of that thing. God, I'm trying to make sure I get my John Carter names right, which I did. Hey, gold star for me on that. But as it goes, he gains employ with a paranoid, sadistic scientist, Fal Siva, who is warring with another scientist inventor, Garnal, and is looking to like exterminate, to break the Assassins Guild. And you think, oh, it's like we're not going to have the Princess in Peril plot, but turns out no. We do end up having the Princess in Peril plot, and there's a chase that ends up taking them to one of the moons of Mars, Thuria, which I think is Phoebus. That's at least what Wikipedia says. So I'll go with what they say. On an interplanetary, one of these newly invented interplanetary ships that has been created by Falsiva, and is powered by a mechanical mind, which I will talk about later. It's the other kind of great invention. And on Thuria, they encounter some more new races. There's the Pterids, who are white-skinned, blue-haired people with mental powers, able to keep themselves invisible using those powers, and the Minas, a one-eyed, two-mouthed chameleon people who are sort of like cats with like kind of mohawks. And they have an interesting dietary practices. So I think at this point, having on book number 8 of the Barsoom series, I've come to kind of just go, okay, Princess in Peril, Damsel in Distress. This is the plot engine that Edgar Rice Burroughs uses to power these plots. Whether it's John Carter is there, or it's Ulysses Paxson, or any of the other many of his kind of paladin heroes, there's going to be a Princess in Peril, which that's going to be kind of the engine to let him then sprinkle out kind of science fiction and all the his adventure plots. I was kind of struck this time. It's like, oh, we get another with Fal Siva. We get another one of these kind of sadistic, cold, mad scientist characters who's bent on using science to dominate, to destroy. It's like one of these things that you think, oh, okay, this is pre-golden, because like I think of the golden age of science fiction with people like Asimov and Heinlein and Clark, as scientists, as they're the heroes and they're providing solutions. And this is a part of kind of a very optimistic narrative of science is going to bring great changes that are going to be helpful to mankind. And yeah, there might be bumps along the way because we've got to have drama in our science fiction stories, but it's sort of like, oh, science is viewed as kind of a positive thing. And a lot of times in these stories, especially the scientist characters are seen as very kind of like they've lost their human emotion. There was what is it? It's in the in the Mastermind of Mars, one of the earlier ones, we had Raz Thavas, who was like horribly experimenting on people for his own scientific purposes. And indeed, in this book, we again have that, and it's like kind of horrific scenes of live vivisection and stuff like that, which you think, oh, this more reminds me of what's going to be, which I think, at least in my head, as kind of like Nazi scientists. And I mean, this is a book written in 1936, so I doubt if those Nazi scientists were in full gear yet. But it's the very dark side of science without ethics, without care and stuff like that. So it's interesting that seems to be kind of a difference between someone like Edgar Rice Burroughs coming before golden age science fiction, and you've got soldiers as the kind of the heroes of these plots. They're men of action. They are intelligent and they're smart and they get their way out of scrapes, but most of the time they're battling against scientists and inventors who are just finding new ways to kill people and bring horrors in the world. It's interesting in this one that one of the main inventions is this mechanical mind, that it's the size of a grapefruit that's inside the ship, which runs the ship. And it's like, to our minds nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, okay, some sort of computer. But the characters in this book, when they kind of come to know that, like, oh, that thing is running everything, and it's like, doing fiendishly complicated, interplanetary kind of like having to plot out courses and operate ships, and you basically give it a simple command and it just goes through and does all the stuff. They find that really disquieting, and I'm thinking, wow, I have my little pocket computer that my cell phone is what I'm pointing to at the moment, is like, that's something we just sort of accept today. But these characters written in 1936 were just like, oh God, that is scary. And what happens if it actually was capable of independent thought? They're definitely going. It's interesting that in the science fiction novel, it's a characters looking at something that's basically a kind of a computer and going, oh God, that's scary. That's unnatural. That's very much kind of, there's the Frankenstein ideas in here. And indeed, the scientist who's made it says that he's killed all his human emotion by all the horrible experiments that he's had to do to come up with this mechanical mind. He's operated on people's brains while they were alive and conscious, and he said that's basically killed all of his human emotions. And you think, and everyone there is concerned, like, oh God, well, what happens if the mechanical mind he's created is as sadistic and unfeeling as he is? Now, what you'll have to read the book to find out if that actually comes of anything, or if that's just an interesting little tidbit that Edgar Rice Burroughs drops in there. It's more of a tidbit. So yeah, so we have that. We have, again, with this book, John Carter is a paladin. He is only interested in Dejah Thoris, but of course, like with all these books, the women are always falling in love with him. In this book, there is a slave girl, Azanda, who he rescues, who's a slave, and says, no, now I want to be your slave. But he's like, no, that wouldn't be right. No, but you can do anything you want to me. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And there's another character, a Terrid woman, who basically also falls in love with him. And it's like, oh God, is this another one of these? It's kind of a evil, conniving woman who is going to cause poor John Carter problems. Which it's interesting because I'm here. Oh, litfic interlude. Pause, brace yourselves. I'm also reading Small Game Hunting at the local Coward Gun Club, where I finished reading it. And it also has a character named John, who is a scumbag St. John's chef who is cheating on his wife with all sorts of women. And the story that he paints for himself is that he's a really nice guy. He always comes across, so he's the nice guy. And these women, they're just attracted to him. They always keep on throwing themselves at him. Now, of course, unlike John Carter of Mars, he sleeps with them and, cheats on his wife and all that stuff. But it's like, no, I'm a paladin, and all these women are just keep on throwing themselves at me. And I was struck between the John Carter, kind of the fantasy image of John Carter in these books, and then what is probably a more realistic thing of a scumbag dude who paints himself as such a nice guy, but there's all these disturbed women who keep on throwing themselves at me while he's actually manipulating them and doing all this nasty stuff to them. So it's just like, oh, okay, that we have maybe fantasy on this side, and then a definite from Megan Gale Coles, a much more feminist modern take on somebody who's putting themselves forward as a John Carter of Mars, but not in the least, not in the least. So okay, litfic interlude over. Let's get back to pulp fiction plot. I love mixing the two. I love mixing the two. I read both of them together, and they both get mixed in my mind. And I think it's always fun when you can combine those two together, and sometimes maybe illuminate some of the things in these books that are, are dodgy, or just things that you should be aware of. I think I should be aware of that John Carter as a character is such the male fantasy, and a male fantasy that's constructed to allow him to have all these beautiful women throw themselves at him. But he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, which in Edgar Rice Burroughs' world, he is the nicest, the purest, the most noble guy there is. So I'm not taking that away from him. I'm just saying, okay. In a scuzzball mind like my own, there's a bit of that John from Halifax, chef from Halifax, sleeping with women and cheating on his wife. Okay, and then just finally, the ending of this book is John. I've admired Edgar Rice Burroughs in the past because his endings are so efficient. It reminds me of kind of like Elmer Leonard. It's like the hero does the thing that he needs to do, and in that instance, everything is wrapped up and you're done. And it's like, oh, and as someone who's like used to these books where, okay, the climax is here, and then we have a tailing off, and we settle this, and we settle that, and we do this, and we do that, and do this, and it's like, okay, and then finally we're done, and we're finally done. There's a bracing thing of like, no, we're done. It's like, this is an action plot. The action is finished. The novel is finished. In this one, it felt like he had written up to a certain point and then went, oh, I only have one chapter left, and he just got everything done. Not to give any spoilers, but it's like, it's one character who said he'd never be found, was found immediately. And there's a whole scenario for like we're going to rescue this person. And then suddenly the door bursts open and that person's there. And it's like, and immediately the nefarious character is brutally executed as they go in for the kind of the clinch and the swelling music and like, oh, I love you. And meanwhile, the nefarious character just gets gutted at the same time. And it's just like, holy crap. And that's the end. And it's just like, what the fuck? It's super abrupt, super arbitrary ending. It's action packed. It's brutally efficient, but it's also just like, okay. It was like one of those gasping, like, it was like one of those, what are we doing? Oh crap, it's over kind of endings, which, it's the Barsoom pulpy fiction novels. You kind of embrace that kind of clunkiness or that kind of, just like, what the hell thing, because you're in a pulp fiction world. So that is the Swrds of Mars, Barsoom number 8 by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I will be going on next month in this my lonely Barsoomathon to read The Synthetic Men of Mars, 1940s book, which apparently had to shop around a bit to find some place to actually kind of get it serialized, and maybe mixed critical reception. I will find out. I am committed to reading I believe it's 11 novels, just the 11 novels of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Barsoom series by the end of the year, which probably means I'll double up in December. But as always, it's a fun little tonic to have while if after I enjoy my mopey litfic, which Small Game Hunting at the local Cowards Gun Club I'm going to do a review of. I really enjoyed, but man, there's some miserable people in there, and it's all over one day and not too much happens. This is a book where it's the exact opposite. Everything happens, but it's on that's kind of that surface level as characters go, and so it's I love the contrast. I love sprinkling candy over my my kale. So more videos later.